My name is Richard Passwater Jr. I work for Biominerals NV, and we're a research and development company in Destelberg in Belgium. It's in the Ghent metropolitan area, and we study connective tissue. We do a lot of preclinical work and clinical research, and then we license out the technology we develop to different people around the world. And I've made many mistakes in my life, but something I got right was partnering with Natural Factors. They're a privately held company from Vancouver, Canada, family owned by the Gaylord family, and their products are available exclusively in natural product stores. They have over 1,000 acres of organic farmland, over 100,000 square feet of GMP or good manufacturing procedure certified manufacturing space that's been approved by Health Canada, the Australian TGA, US FDA, Japanese Japanese Ministry of Health and Welfare, and the European Food Safety Authority. But when I tell people we study collagen, people always say, who cares? Why should they take any time to learn anything about collagen? What's it do? But collagen, in my opinion, is the body's go-to material to make whenever it needs to make something that's both strong and flexible. It's a strong fibrous, a flexible fibrous protein. Pound for pound, it's stronger than steel if you look at the tensile strength of it, but it's much more flexible. It makes up the connective tissue of all it makes up the framework of all connective tissue in the body. It makes up about 1/3 of the protein in the body. And in the old days, they didn't realize that it was a protein. They thought it was more of a glue-like substance. So they named it after the Greek word for glue, collagen, because they thought it was a glue that held the body together. And the easiest place to observe collagen is in the skin. The skin's about 75% collagen, where it forms this dense multi-directional framework in the dermis area, in the middle area of the skin. And it's what gives skin its thickness, its plumpness, its suppleness, and it's also what reflects light from the skin. About 90% of the light that hits the outer layer of the skin, the epidermis, actually goes through it into the dermis. And the more collagen fibers somebody has, the more light reflects out. So the more radiance or glow or luminosity, or every time I go to bed at night and don't leave the kitchen light on, the cosmetic industry comes up with a new word for skin radiance. I don't keep up to track with, but I think the new one's luminosity. But that is heavily dependent on the collagen because that's what the light's bouncing off of. But unfortunately, as the collagen network breaks down in the skin becomes thinner, it becomes less elastic, micro wrinkles deepen and become more noticeable, deep wrinkles, and the skin reflects less light. As an extreme example of what the change in collagen in the skin can do, this guy was a truck driver, and this side of his face faced out of the cab, and this side of his face faced in the cab. And it really, the researchers had fun, and they used Photoshop to show what he would look like with both sides damaged and both sides healthy. And these pictures come from a study. It was done in the UK by a group of dermatological researchers, and it was done on twins from Finland. The researchers put the twins in front of a panel of beauty experts, and they tried to get the beauty experts to guess the age of the twins. And both these twins are 68, they're identical twins, and one looked 5 years younger than the other one. So they asked the beauty experts why. Was it the hair, was it the eyes, the lips? But they said no, it was the condition of the skin. It was the condition of the collagen in the skin that made one look 5 years older than the other one. The most extreme example from this study were these ladies. They were 71. One looked her age and one looked 82. And again, when they asked what the differences were, the beauty experts said it was due to the condition of the collagen in the skin. And there's the last example of collagen in the skin and age comes from a study on twins with smokers, where one twin smoked 5 years longer than the other twin. And the researchers divided the face into 3 segments, the top, the middle, and the bottom. And they found that the middle section and the bottom section of the twin that smoked looked on average 15% older than the twin that didn't smoke because of the collagen damage and collagen loss from the smoking. Smoking produces free radicals that damages collagen, but I think even more importantly, the smoking really taxes the vitamin C, or the body's vitamin C stores, and the lack of vitamin C prohibits new collagen production. But my wife always tells me I look better in the dark, so I always try to find the darkest spot in the room to stand. But bones are also collagen-based tissues. The same collagen, collagen type 1, that's in the skin is also in bone, and it makes up about 30% of bone. The other 70% of bone are minerals such as calcium phosphate crystals. They get deposited into the collagen network and give bone a more rigid and defined shape than skin. But the very unique properties of bone have to do with this interchange between the collagen and the calcium phosphate. But in bone, collagen serves two roles. I think first and foremost, the role of collagen bone is to give it its flexibility, or its ability to absorb impact. Bone researchers like to call that toughness. I'm a big fan of easy to say words. The more collagen somebody has, the more impact the bone can absorb before it cracks, and the more flexibility it has. And unfortunately, as the network breaks down as people age, the bone loses that flexibility and becomes more brittle. Collagen also serves a secondary role in bone as well. It serves as the template or the parking spaces or the binding sites for the calcium phosphate crystals. And the more collagen fibers somebody has in their bone matrix, the more bone mineral density potential the person has, because there's more surface area to adhere the calcium phosphate crystals to. In a way, the collagen acts as a magnet to hold the calcium into the bone matrix. And collagen's role in bone is so important that many modern bone researchers think that the 80% of the bone strength has to do with the quality and the quantity of collagen in the bone. Joints are also collagen-based tissues. As an example, the cartilage that's on the end of the long bones that helps the bones glide instead of grind across each other generally goes about 70% collagen. The tendons that hold muscles onto bone generally go about 80% collagen. And the ligaments that form capsules around the joint to hold synovial fluid in, and also that directly connect bone tissue to one another, they go about 70 up to about 90% collagen. And unfortunately, as the collagen network breaks down, the joint loses integrity, it loses strength and flexibility, and pain and inflammation are usually the result. And the last one I chose to focus on here in the presentation are blood vessels. The human body has over 60,000 miles of blood vessels in them, and they're about 40% collagen and elastin. And people tell me all the time, I don't want to hear about cardiovascular stuff. I want to hear about beauty. What's this got to do with beauty? But the color of the skin is heavily influenced by the amount of hemoglobin in the skin. It gives the pink color to the skin. The color of somebody's skin is determined by the amount of hemoglobin in the blood in the skin, the amount of melatonin, which are tans and browns that either are produced by DNA programming or response to the sun, and also the carotenoids that we eat in our diet. The reds and the lycopene and the tomatoes, or the yellows and oranges from beta-carotene and astaxanthin and lutein. So when you see somebody's, the color that they are is the melatonin, the hemoglobin in the blood, and the carotenoids from their diet. And as people get older, the blood vessels will lose elasticity, and many of the blood vessels involved in microcirculation are actually smaller than the red blood cells that have to go through them. So for the microcirculation to occur, the vessel has to expand, and the red blood cell has to fold over. And if the vessel doesn't have the proper amount of collagen, it won't expand right, so the circulation decreases. People have less blood in the skin, and they have more of a hollow gray look. Also, more cardiovascular disease-oriented, the inside of the blood vessel is under constant attack from things that destroy collagen, such as homocysteine, from stress hormones like cortisol, from sugar through glycation reactions, reacts with the protein and damages it, and then free radicals. And I'm a big believer, based on research from the Linus Pauling Institute, that if you can keep collagen production a potential high, plaque won't form regardless of how much LDL cholesterol is in the blood. The body only starts to use cholesterol and its components to fix to implant into the arteries and veins to fix them if the body can't make enough collagen. And unfortunately, unfortunately, if the body can't make enough collagen, plan B, in my opinion, to fix the veins and arteries is to take lipoprotein A and use it as like a duct tape or a plaster to fix the damage. It's very effective at keeping the vessel from leaking, but it can oxidize, calcify, and lead to blockage of the vessel and heart cardiovascular disease and death. And based on research first by Pauling and then by Matthias Rath and now by Margret Traber, I'm a big believer that if you can keep the collagen production high, you can prevent the plaque from forming. And if you have plaque, if you can get collagen production back up high, a body will actually make enzymes that can tear down some of the plaque that's been previously deposited. So sometimes when I talk about all these tissues at once, people give me that real skeptical look. They say they were born at night, but it wasn't last night, and that there's no way that they're going to believe that skin has anything to do with bones or joints, because all these tissues look so different from one another. But they do all have the same framework, which is collagen, and because of that, they are interconnected in the body. I think it started back in the 1940s. There was a very famous physician in the U.S. named Fuller Albright. He's widely regarded as one of the most 5 influential physicians in U.S. history. But he was an endocrinologist, and he was a leading osteoporosis researcher on his time. And he said he could look at a woman's hand and determine whether she had osteoporosis. He said that the older women that he treated for osteoporosis had thin, transparent skin on their hands, where older women he treated for other issues but had healthy bones generally had thicker, less transparent skin on their hands. And at the time, people thought he was crazy. Then in the 1960s, there was a guy, McConkey, who was a famous dermatology researcher. He determined that it was the same type of collagen in skin and bones. And about that same time, there were a group of orthomolecular doctors that were doing research on cardiovascular health, and they thought a good way for physicians to screen for arterial health was to look at somebody's earlobe, because the earlobe is pretty much all collagen, and if somebody has crappy collagen in their earlobe, they probably have broken down collagen in their arteries as well. And it used to be a screening tool that some of the orthomolecular doctors would use to try to screen for heart disease. And people would say that they were crazy too. But then the godfather of collagen research, in my opinion, was Professor Sam Schuster. He was a dermatology professor from the UK, and he's really a leading authority in collagen research. But regarding the link with collagen, skin collagen and bone, he used to be fascinated with autopsies, where the bodies with the good skin had good bones, and the bodies with bad skin had bad bones. And it led him to do a series of small studies where when people were admitted to the hospital with bad bones, he would give them a free skin exam or have somebody there do it. And he did a study where he recruited young children in their teens and early 20s that had different types of collagen disorders that caused unsightly skin. And he would give them bone exams, and they had bad bones even though they were very young. And it led him to believe that the changes that you see occurring in the skin are also changing in the bones, are occurring in the bone. And he theorized that the same compounds that were being studied to improve skin health should be researched for bone health as well. And towards the end of his career, he wrote a fire and brimstone paper that said mainstream medicine had osteoporosis all wrong. It was really modern-day scurvy. It was a collagen loss disorder. And he challenged younger researchers to prove him wrong or right. And one of these researchers was a Professor Powell from Yale University Medical School. She had previously done a study where she linked uterus prolapse with osteoporosis later in life. And she theorized that it's collagen fibers that keep organs in place. And if that people were having problems with organs dropping, it was a sign they had poor collagen network in the body. And then that was what the poor collagen is what was causing the osteoporosis later in life. But in this particular study, she decided to investigate the direct link between skin and bones. And she recruited women in their 50s, and she looked at the depth of the wrinkles on their faces, and she found that the deeper wrinkles on their faces they had, the lower bone mineral density and lower bone mineral content they had. And she found that the greater skin elasticity the women had on their face, the better bone mineral density they have. She actually developed a test for primary care physicians to look at the gabular region on somebody's forehead to gauge the quality of the skin in that area, because that was the area that she thought corresponded best with the hip. And most bone research always focuses on the hip because the hip fractures are the most deadly and debilitating type of fracture. As a general rule, only 1/3 of the people that have a hip fracture can return to their previous quality of life. and a third of the people that have a hip fracture require institutionalized care the rest of their life. And generally, that third die within 18 months. It's really one of the leading causes of death in North America and all throughout the first world. So I always like how nutrition and physiological research often goes around in a circle. Back in the 40s, they were saying to look at the hand. Now it's cutting-edge research from Yale Medical School to look at somebody's forehead to gauge their bone health. But I love collagen. I talk about collagen all day long, and sometimes my wife asks me to stop. And then I talk about baseball. And she puts up with that for about 45 seconds, and then she asks me what I was saying about the collagen again. But collagen's fascinating stuff. There's really not much bad to say about it, but the only two things that really make it complicated and frustrating are that it takes over 40 genes to produce collagen, so there's a lot of things that can go wrong genetically. And second, collagen production generally maxes out when somebody's about 21 years old. So all throughout our adult life, we make less collagen. Also, unfortunately, all through our adult life, we also tend to do a lot of things that facilitate collagen loss. So we're making less collagen and destroying more collagen. So as a general guideline, about all throughout our adult life, we generally lose about 1% of our collagen per year. You can see it in the skin. The average woman's skin gets about 7% thinner every 10 years, but the same thing's happening in the bone. The average woman loses about 8 or 9% of her bone mineral density every 10 years. And there's a little bit of difference between the sexes. Men are fortunate. We start with about 15% more bone or more collagen in our body than women do. So it often gives us a 15-year advantage in the aging and collagen-related tissues. And also, unless we do something reckless that's going to facilitate collagen loss, such as let stress get the best of us or start smoking cigarettes or something, we generally lose about 1% per year very linearly all throughout our life. There's never a time that we age very quickly, and I think it helps men deal with aging. Where collagen, if you don't have enough stress here in Chattanooga, I can give you the phone numbers of some girls I used to date and some guys I used to work with, and they'll get your stress levels up real bad. Collagen loss in women is much more complicated. Estrogen increases collagen production. It really supports and props up collagen production. So a young woman, say 30 or 32, is likely making much more collagen than a man that same age because the estrogen is boosting the collagen production. But most women, estrogen levels start to deteriorate some in their late 30s, and then in the early 40s go through a phase where they drop more significantly, and collagen production decreases at that time. But the time in somebody's life where collagen loss is at the greatest is in the first 5 years after menopause. It's very typical for a woman to lose 6% of the collagen each year for a 30% reduction in collagen in her body in the 5 years after menopause. It's really a time in somebody's life where the skin changes very dynamically. You can see it in the skin, but it's happening in the bones and joints. Much of the collagen loss has to do with less collagen production. As there's no longer estrogen in high degrees, the body's no longer making large amounts of collagen. And also, a lot of people don't realize that premenopausal women can make choline in their body. There's a special enzyme, SERP, which can help women make choline. And if they have high homocysteine levels or high stress levels, the estrogen can activate the SERP, and the SERP can make choline, which can help neutralize the homocysteine and to some degree the cortisol. But after menopause, there's less estrogen, so it's difficult to activate this enzyme. So the women can no longer make the choline. And because of that, homocysteine levels really raise in the body after menopause, and the homocysteine is chemically corrosive to collagen, and it destroys collagen all throughout the body. So some of this 30% is less collagen production, and a lot of it is sudden collagen loss caused by rising homocysteine levels. You can neutralize homocysteine levels with choline, betadine, and also with B vitamins, especially B6, folic acid, and B12. I think it's very important for somebody after menopause to take a very good B complex or a multiple vitamin with a solid B complex profile in there. So I stole this chart from a guy that does joint research with us, and it shows that bone mass generally increases for a woman into her early 20s. It stays pretty consistent until her early 40s, where it starts to drop. And then at menopause varies tremendously. They say you're normal if you're between 40 and 60 when you go through it. I think the average age worldwide is 47, and in the US I believe it's 53 is the average age. But then there's a big drop after menopause, and then it levels out to like 1 or 2% per year after that. Our marketing director thought that was a little bit complicated, so he simplified it a little bit on the website, but it's the same idea for skin. And people tell me all the time, you beat it in the ground, Passwater. I get it. I'm getting older. I'm losing collagen. I get it. Just tell me how to make more. So collagen is a protein, and it's made like all proteins by the body by linking together single amino acids in a very specific sequence that's determined by our DNA. There's generally 19 or 20 different amino acids in the collagen molecule. Glycine is the most prevalent one. Every third amino acid is glycine. And the two ones that people often don't get enough of in their diet that really stand in the way of collagen production is they don't eat enough proline and they don't eat enough lysine. Highlighted by proline in blue because BioSil helps the body make proline. The body can make it from ornithine via a liver enzyme. But proline's found in eggs, it's found in organ meats and some muscle meats. It's a high amount in the fish like salmon. Lysine has to be obtained from the diet. The World Health Organization suggests that lysine, the average woman eats 2.3 grams a day, is a good goal, they say. And for men, they recommend, the World Health Organization recommends 3 grams a day. And many people don't get that much. It's in the same foods as proline often, but in a vegetarian plant-based diet, it's quite complicated to get enough lysine unless somebody makes an effort and tries hard. So I always encourage people adhering to a plant-based diet to really write down their primary protein sources and then look up the amount of lysine in those sources to make sure they're getting their 2.3 or 3 grams of lysine per day. I even like to see people eat 5 grams a day to make sure there's enough. But soy is very high in lysine. Some nuts, such as pistachios, are quite high. Almonds have about, a serving of almond has about 12% of the lysine per day. Chickpeas are quite high. I think a serving of chickpeas has about 50% of the amount of lysine needed. But there's some other beans that have virtually no lysine in there. It's kind of hit and miss. And I think people have to really make an effort to take a look at the lysine in their protein sources if it's coming from a plant-based diet. There's a great site, Healthaliciousness, that lists the lysine content in a lot of foods. The USDA has one as well. There's a couple of different resources, but I find this one easy to use, so I like to give them credit. But it's often, if you don't eat enough lysine, you can't make enough collagen. I think it's a fundamental part in collagen production. So the building blocks for collagen, oh sorry, I can give you, so the building blocks for collagen are the amino acids. In the factories that collagen are made, they're called fibroblasts. Some have fancy names, like in bone they're called osteoblasts, and in joints they're called chondrocytes, and in tendons, tendinocytes. But these are very uniquely shaped cells that hang on to the collagen network that they're around, and they make, they're the factories in which collagen's made in and around. They make collagen, they make elastin, which is a very similar, it's sort of like in a jean. The collagen is like the cotton and the elastin's like the spandex or something that gives it a little bit additional elasticity. They make hyaluronic acid that holds moisture in tissues. They also make enzymes that can tear down damaged collagen. But they're very fascinating cells, and they're heavily influenced by this crazy shape that they have in the environment around them. As the collagen network starts to break down, the cell changes shape and it doesn't function as well. And if you can build back the collagen network, the cell repositions itself and starts functioning better when it can regain the shape it wants. But the actual things in the body that make collagen are enzymes. They're really the craftsmen or the factory workers in the body that are actually going to assemble the collagen. And enzymes need cofactors to function properly. Enzymes generally need a vitamin or a vitamin-like substance to work, and they generally need a mineral to work. And there's 10 enzymes that have been identified in collagen production. 7 of those need vitamin C as the vitamin cofactor, and 5 need silicon, orthosilicic acid, and then the choline protects the activity of a 6th one. But these are some of the enzymes that are more difficult and important to activate to make collagen. So basically, to make collagen, the body starts with these amino acids. It links it together to form a strand. Biocell helps work in vitamin C by helping the body make proline. And then prolohydroxylase enzymes come along and convert the proline to hydroxyproline. And that allows the body to link one chain together to form that triple helix, which is where the strength of collagen really comes from. There's another enzyme called lysyl hydroxylase that converts the lysine to hydroxylysine that gives additional strength to the structure. And then lysyl oxidase, millions of times over, takes these little, they call them tropocollagen pieces, and links them together first to form a fibril, and then it links the fibrils together to form a fiber. So I'm quite impressed that the body can take microscopic amino acids and just link them together millions of times over to form the framework of skin and bones and joint tissue. And it's an enzymatic-driven process that requires a lot of these cofactors to function properly. So to do the heavy lifting in collagen construction, I highly recommend making sure people eat adequate vitamin C and adequate orthosilicic acid. And the product that we developed, Biocell, contains choline stabilized orthosilicic acid. So I had a little bit of research about vitamin C. And people say, don't talk about vitamin C, it's not very sexy. Talk about something new and exciting. But you can't make vitamin C without, you can't make collagen without vitamin C. The deficiency disease for vitamin C is scurvy. It's skin and it's death by skin and bone breakdown. And actually the first ever nutracosmetic study that ever looked at what people put in their mouth and how it affected their appearance was actually done on vitamin C. And it clearly showed that people that ate modest amounts or high amounts of vitamin C had less skin wrinkling and better skin moisture than people that ate like the daily value amount of vitamin C or less. And there was a more recent study from the August 2015 in Korea where skin radiance is really the king. They're really huge into having bright, radiant, luminescent skin. And in this study, they gave the volunteers 1,250 milligrams of vitamin C for 8 weeks. And they increased the skin radiance levels 30% in the people that were in the study. They also reduced a marker of cellular aging in the skin, and they reduced they improved the complexion in the skin, especially in the smokers, the ones in the study that smoked. And there's 4 very fine studies that also link vitamin C with bone breakdown or bone health. 2 studies show that people that eat low vitamin C levels have a high fracture rate and a low BMD. And there's 2 very fine studies that show that people that eat modest or high levels of vitamin C have more bone mineral content. And 1 study was a 17-year study that showed even modest amounts of vitamin C each day can reduce fracture rate. And it was quite a convincing study that vitamin C is very important. And I'm even more excited with the research on Biocell with these tissues. Biocell is a uniquely effective nutrient complex that is clinically proven to activate enzymes in the body that make collagen, elastin, and keratin. And there's over 20 years and over $14 million of research on the product. Most of it's double-blind, placebo-controlled studies done by opinion leaders in their field, published in top medical journals. And the first set of data I have, these data are from a 20-week study where women took 2 Biocell capsules or 2 placebo capsules for 20 weeks. They were women between 40 and 65 with photo-damaged skin. And the women taking placebos, wrinkles deepened during the course of the study, and the women taking Biocell, wrinkles became more shallow, 19% more shallow or less deep. So it was a 30% difference. And once I was giving a talk and I showed this graph and a woman laughed, I was real self-conscious. What I had done was my hair standing up, was my fly down, what was wrong. So I asked her, and she said she was going to get younger while her evil twin sister got older looking, and she liked that. So I stole it from her. I use it all the time now. And in the same study, they measured skin elasticity over on the side of the forehead. And they had a device that sent shock waves through the skin to measure the elasticity. It was a lot better than when I went to school. They used to pinch the skin and measure it with a stopwatch. Despite what Ed tells people, when I was in school, we didn't record the data with a feather pen by candlelight. I didn't go to that school that long ago. But this is much more high tech. And the placebo group fell apart. The BioSol group got better. It was 89% difference. And this is the #1 area of customer feedback that we receive. We get a lot of testimonials about eye drooping of the eyelids. One lady said avoided surgery to, she had droopy eyelids. They were interfering with her vision, and she was told that she was going to have to get the skin cut off to keep her driver's license. She took BioSol and it tightened the skin up where she didn't have to get the surgery. The most recent one I heard that I really resonated with me was a lady, 69, that had droopy skin where the cheek dropped down over the upper lip. And when she talked, it rubbed together and it made like a friction burn. And she took BioSol for 6 months and it tightened up the skin enough where the friction burn went away and it wasn't unsightly anymore and it didn't hurt when she cleaned her face. But a lot of times, I used to do vitamin E work with vitamin E and CoQ10 with the heart disease, and they laugh at me that I work with now with like cosmetic applications with collagen. But skin is very important to people, and it's often under-researched because a lot of people think it's not that as important as health as it is. But anyway, the collagen network is in the dermis area of the skin, and it forms this dense multi-directional network that keeps skin plump and taut. Also, the same cells that make the collagen make hyaluronic acid, which puts moisture in the skin. But if you really want to increase moisture in the skin, hyaluronic acid supplements are very effective at doing so, as are glucosamine supplements. Oftentimes, people always associate glucosamine with joint health, but hyaluronic acid is 1/2 D-glucuronic acid and 1/2 N-acetylglucosamine. And the N-acetylglucosamine is the harder part to get. And glucosamine supplements will increase hyaluronic acid all throughout the body, not just in joints. And it's a great skin supplement either topically or orally. Also, as a beauty product, people often say, hey, I get it. They took 2 capsules and they increased or reduced wrinkles 30%. I'm going to take 20 capsules and I'm going to reduce wrinkles 60% in 2 weeks. But unfortunately, BioSol doesn't work that way. It activates enzymes in the body, and once the enzymes all get activated, taking more doesn't do anything. So I always encourage people just to take the recommended dose, the proven dose. And then other things to consider to support the collagen are vitamin C. And then the body protects this collagen by putting flavonoids onto it, especially the flavonoids found at simple ones like catechin and epicatechin gallate, things found like in green tea and pine bark extract and grapeseed extract, blueberries, bilberries, raspberries, tomatoes, really bright colored foods where the bright colors coming from the flavonoid, like the skins of grapes are a great source of flavonoids that they get physically deposited on the collagen structures throughout the body and protect it from glycation, can protect it from free radicals. Also, carotenoids are deposited into this collagen network to protect it. Lutein is a very great collagen protector. Zeaxanthin, like in salmon. Astaxanthin. Zeaxanthin is a great protector. Lutein, lycopene, all stick to the collagen to help protect it. They did a study with tomatoes showing the lycopene in it reduced sunburn and reduced wrinkling over time. There's a very nice study with lutein on it. And then alpha lipoic acid is a wonderful protector, especially in people with blood sugar troubles for the collagen in the skin. Alpha lipoic acid can stop those advanced glycation end products from damaging the skin, is a great skin antioxidant as well. I always encourage people to get those compounds in their diet to help protect the collagen as well. The most researched topic on BioSol is actually hair. These data come from a 9-month study where women with thin hair took BioSol, either 2 BioSol capsules or 2 placebo capsules for 9 months. And the women taking BioSol thickened and strengthened their hair about 13%. And people tell me all the time, 9 months, I don't want to wait 9 months. But a lot of the women were in their 50s and 60s, and women that age generally grow 1 centimeter hair per month. And the researchers needed 9 centimeters of hair to run the testing apparatus, so the study had to go 9 months. Biosil works 4 ways to increase hair. The hair grows out of the hair follicle, of course, and down at the bottom of it is the business end of it called the dermal pulpea. It sort of looks like somebody's fist or a light bulb. And the cells on the outside of the dermal pulpea actually become the hair. They get stuffed with keratin fibers and then grow out and become the hair itself. And as people get older, the dermal pulpea usually gets smaller. And as it gets smaller, the hair that grows around it becomes thinner. And as it's thinner, it's weaker. So Biosil can activate the fibroblasts that make collagen in the dermal pulpea, make it bigger again, more like when the person was younger. So the hair gets thicker, and because it's thicker, it's stronger. People often ask me, is it going to make me look like Chewbacca or Sasquatch? But the maximum size of the dermal pulpea is determined by our DNA and by hormones. And Biosil can't impact either of those. It can just help return the hair more to the thickness it was when somebody was younger, but it won't change your genetics or make very fine hairs, coarse terminal hairs or anything like that. Biosil also increases the elasticity in the blood vessel that gives more blood flow to the dermal pulpea. So you get more nutrients delivered there, more B vitamins, more amino acids, more sulfur compounds, and the hair grows healthier and faster because it's better nourished. I think measuring the rate of hair growth, as strange as it sounds, is quite difficult because of the variation in the between people and then the seasonal variations. But I'm confident that Biosil can speed hair growth about 40%. Another compound that really can speed hair growth is N-acetylcysteine. It smells horrible, but it won't make your breath stink. And if you take the N-acetylcysteine, the hair and the nails really grow fast. And MSM is also an excellent compound to take to speed hair growth as well. So Biosil works 2 ways: by improving the dermal pulpea, the collagen network, to make hair healthier. Also, Biosil directly affects the keratin structure 2 ways as well. As a general rule, orthosilicic acid helps the body make proline, and it's involved in enzymes that process proline. And there's an enzyme that puts proline into the hair structure that's orthosilicic acid dependent. So Biosil helps activate that enzyme. And also some of the silicon in Biosil, some of the OSA, actually gets physically incorporated into the hair to strengthen it. So it works 2 ways: by improving collagen, and 2 ways by directly improving keratin. Invariably, when I talk about hair, the topic of hair loss management comes up, and it's a very sensitive topic to me for the obvious reasons. I started to lose my hair when I was 17, had a bald spot before I was 25, and I dealt with hair loss discussions for many, many years. Sometimes by angry women telling me to find ways to regrow it, or they were leaving. We have more research underway right now, but the only factual data we have at the present time is from a pilot study. There were 18 people in this one, and it's a very small pilot study. But 66% of the people regrew some hair after 2 months, and 89% of the people regrew some hair after 6 months. Most of the hair regrowth was slight or moderate, and the patients thought they did a little bit better than the doctor did. This guy here did it real well. This is the top of his head at the start of the study after 2, 4, and 6 months, and this is the back of his hair at the start of the study after 2, 4, and 6 months. This guy had a type of alopecia called alopecia rectica. It's a weird, it's like lupus or rheumatoid arthritis. It's one of these weird autoimmune disorders where one day somebody wakes up and the immune system decides to attack terminal dermal pulpea. And for some reason, the immune system starts attacking the hair follicles. Biosil doesn't do anything to fix the underlying problem, which is the mysterious trigger that turns the immune system on itself. But every day when the immune system attacks the dermal pulpea, Biosil can help the dermal pulpea be built back so that at the end result is it's healthier and can still grow hair. I think the same is true with male pattern baldness. Male pattern baldness is complicated and not real well understood, but it definitely has something to do with dihydrotestosterone, DHT. They used to think the DHT directly minimized the dermal pulpea, and over time it would just kill it. Now they think that the DHT activates some sort of prostaglandin, and that's what destroys the dermal papilla. But the bottom line is the dermal papilla gets destroyed by some DHT-dependent mechanism. BioSil won't break up the DHT, but it can help the dermal papilla grow back if there's still life in it. I think the sooner somebody with hair loss starts taking BioSil, the better it's going to work for hair loss. But if the dermal papilla is dead and annihilated, like it is here on the top of my hair, BioSil can't help that hair grow anymore. Also, whenever talking about hair, I like to point out that the two leading causes of hair loss in women are low iron levels and low thyroid functioning. And I highly encourage you, if you have any family members or that are suffering with hair loss, to have them get their iron levels checked. They want to get their stored iron ferritin checked, and you want a ferritin level of at least 30. If you have a ferritin level less than 30, I don't guarantee much in life, but I guarantee there'll be hair problems. And it's a very inexpensive, painless test. I hear they do it right down here. And it's a stored iron level, and you can take an iron supplement and get the iron level back up into a good range, and often that will facilitate hair regrowth immediately. Very similar with thyroid. Low thyroid functioning generally causes brittle hair and eventually hair loss. And I encourage people to do a self-help questionnaire or to get their thyroid hormone levels checked. You want to really pressure the clinician to make sure you're in the ideal range and not the average range. The average range contains almost everybody, but you want to be better than that. You want to be more in the ideal range. I think here in the U.S., depending on the test, there's a 1 to 1.5 on the one I'm familiar with is where you want to be in that range. But depending on the test, they'll have different reference ranges. Also, the Sloan Kettering Cancer Treatment Research Center now recommends BioSil to regrow hair after cancer treatment. And some of the most touching testimonials we get are from that application. BioSil also works to stimulate and improve nail growth. In this study, it was a 20-week study where women took 2 BioSil capsules or 2 placebo capsules. The women taking BioSil were the lucky ones. They grew 27% stronger nails during the course of the study. It works the same way for nails as it does for hair. The only difference is that in nails, the nail formation site's called the nail matrix. It's the white area down at the bottom of the nail cuticle. And as people get older, or the nail bed, sorry, I misspoke. And as the body gets older, the nail matrix gets smaller. The nail matrix has less blood flow to it, and it has less enzymatic activity occurring inside. And BioSil can positively impact all those things and create a faster growing and stronger nail. The 3 fastest tissues in the sorry, I have a little bit of jet lag. I apologize. I also had 12 years of speech therapy, and some days it sounds like I needed 5 more or to get my money back. I had the 3 fastest growing tissues in the body are hair, bone marrow, and nails. But the rate will vary tremendously amongst individuals. But those are the 3 fastest ones. And as a general rule, fingernails grow 3 times faster than toenails. People on their feet all day or that run long distances often won't have the same difference, but as a general rule, it's 3 times faster. And the hand people write with grow faster than the other hand, and the thumb and the forefinger on the hand that you write with grow the fastest. And they say that these are the canary pigeons to what your lifestyle and dietary changes are doing to your connective tissue. So I always suggest that when people start taking BioSil or make any type of positive or negative change, to look for a change here in these 2 fingers. And in BioSil, you usually see a change in 1 or 2 months, and with hair in 2 to 3 months, in skin, and in joints in 3 to 4 months, and in bone in 6 months to a year. So because of the science and beauty, we get a lot of publicity, which I like to brag about. And this year, as an example, we won Best Beauty Supplement by Better Nutrition. We won Best Skin Support Supplement by Taste of Life. We won Best Nail Supplement last year with Delicious Living. We've now won 12 beauty awards, and we're very proud of that. And then all of a sudden, I grew up in Berlin, Maryland. And guys that grew up in Berlin, Maryland don't expect a lot to do with celebrities. But in October this year, all of a sudden, Christy Brinkley, perhaps I had a poster of her when I was younger and single, I did an interview with Bobby Brown, the makeup artist, not the rapper, where she talked about taking BioSil for her hair, skin, and nails. And I found that very interesting. And then she, in November, she published a book. Grand Central Publishing had asked her to write a book about her theories on beauty, who inspired her, what she ate, how she worked out, what she thought made a woman look pretty. They had previously done one with Cameron Diaz, and they had I think they sold 4.5 million copies of it or something. And they picked another celebrity, and Christy Brinkley was the celebrity they had picked. But she started taking BioSil in March of 2014. After she had gone through menopause, she had noticed a thinning of her hair and brittling. Her nails became more brittle, and she didn't like it. She started using hair extensions. She actually has a line of hair extensions now to cover the thinning hair. But she couldn't find anything that she deemed safe to put onto her nails. And her hairstylist recommended to take BioSil for her nails, and she liked it. She mentioned it 5 times in her book. She talks about taking it after menopause, taking it to help the skin with stress, taking it for nails. She mentions it as part of her daily routine. And her agent approached us and said she would be interested in being the spokesperson for BioSil. She had never promoted a dietary supplement before, but she liked it and would be interested in being the spokesperson. So I took this personal. In 1990, my father used to be the team doctor for the Washington Redskins, and after that, he knew a lot of the NFL guys, and Total Gym hired him to be the spokesperson for Total Gym. And in 1975, Christy Brinkley displaced my father as spokesperson for Total Gym. And now I think she's going after another generation of Passwater to displace them as spokesperson. So the boss sent me to New York to check her out to make sure she was as healthy looking as she appeared in the pictures. And I have to say she is. When you hug her, it's like hugging a swimmer. And I brought my wife because my wife's much more interesting to talk to than I am. And I figured if conversation were to break out, I'd better have her there. But she's a delightful person. So we decided you only live once, and to sign her up for spokesperson. It's the biggest financial decision we've ever made as a company. And on February 1st, she became the spokesperson. She recently was in a Women's World article where she talked about BioSil for her nails. She was in, I don't know this one, The Improper. I don't know a lot of the one. She's on the current cover of New Beauty magazine. They have a video online about the making of the cover, and she talks about taking BioSil to keep the collagen and elastin levels in her body high. She talks about that they have to do with providing the youthful appearance. And then she uses technical terms like plumpness and that kind of moist, dewy thing, but talking about how it increases the hyaluronic acid and skin moisture in the. So we really appreciate and we're honored and privileged to be associated with her now. She also was in a recent blog where she recommended that she recommends that vegetarians at least sometimes rotate supplements into their diet, but she talks about regularly rotating BioSil in because it helps support connective tissue growth. And then we got some press recently. We've been getting some press recently. It started with the Daily Mail in the UK from the former spokesperson of Australia. Her name's Laura Worthington. She's married to some sort of duke, and she's a famous fitness model in Europe. She's from Australia, where she was a famous fitness model there. And she takes biotin and BioSil and omega-3 fatty acids for her skin and her hair. It's an excellent combination. Biotin activates different enzymes in the body than BioSil does, and they're a great combination to take the two together. And then omega-3s also can be very beneficial for skin health as well. They're especially important in forming the outer layer in the epidermis of the skin. We got some good publicity recently on the Merlin Dennis show, which is the top talk show. It's sort of like Oprah in Canada. I promised I'd cut out her horrible fingernail. It gets mistaken as something else. But I apologize, I didn't cut it out on this one. But she talked about taking BioSil for 7 types of nails disorders, in particular the vertical ridges that go like to and from the body. That's a classic sign that the nail matrix is getting smaller. And taking BioSil can increase the size of the nail matrix and flatten out those ridges and make the nail more smooth. I will take this opportunity to say that if you have white spots on a lot of nails, that's often a sign of a zinc deficiency or an iron deficiency, and you should get treated seek medical advice. And also if you have horizontal ridges that go like left to right on the nail, those usually occur from trauma. or from like a organ problem, like a liver or kidney problem. And if you don't remember dropping something on your hand to create or if it's on lots of different fingers, I would highly encourage you to go seek medical treatment for the horizontal nails. They can be a sign of something that's more than just cosmetic. I had never kept up with the Kardashians before until I heard they took Biosil. The New Yorker magazine interviewed their hairstylist, Jen Atkins, and she told him that she gave him the Biosil to grow the hair faster and to prevent their split ends. And then the clothing monger, Tommy Hilfiger's niece, Jamie Hilfiger, takes Biosil and talks about it a lot in the press. We always appreciate that. Cosmopolitan somewhat recently had a story about it on how to grow your hair faster. And they recommended Biosil as one of the ways. NAC and MSM also really stimulate the rate of hair growth. The Huffington Post deemed Biosil one of the 8 greatest beauty products of all times. I've been known to brag about that when I have a beer or two. A publication called it Europe's Beauty Secret. Well, Bella had an article by Dr. Michael Murray, one of my idols, that recommended Biosil as a way to reduce crow's feet. Moore had an article from a hairstylist she does the hair for Sofia Vergara and Penelope Cruz, again about taking Biosil to prevent split ends. Biosil won't do anything with the split ends that have already there. Once the hair grows out of the follicle, Biosil can't influence it, but the new hair that comes out will be stronger and less likely to split. Vogue kind of had a rough piece where they said that a lot of dietary supplements weren't tested, but in this they picked out 6 that they thought were, and they thought that they called Biosil buzzworthy because it had been clinically proven to increase skin elasticity in hair and nails. Dr. Marita Sho had a nice article about bone strength and suggested vitamin C and silicon as Biosil as a way to increase bone strength. I enjoy surfing, so I put anything I can in a presentation that has to do with surfing. And then Victoria Toby Dawes wrote an article about 5 top nutrients for age-defying skin. I think that's been it's been syndicated at least 30 times. I think about 60 times. She lives in Hawaii and she writes about nutrition and beer. I think she knows she's got a good thing going there. The next set of data comes on bone research. Professor Tim Spector's at the University of London. He's published over 300 studies on bone. And in this particular study, he took women that had just been diagnosed with osteopenia. It's a T-score between -1 and -2.5. If you get more negative than -2.5, then you have osteoporosis. And they're normally prescribed biphosphonate drugs. But in this study, he took women that were -1 to -2.5, and he gave them all calcium and vitamin D. They took 1,000 milligrams of calcium, 800 IU of vitamin D. Some took Biosil and some took placebo. And the women taking Biosil grew 15% more bone collagen. The longer they took it, the better it worked, which is always good to see. When you see a study where the results are good and then they go away, it's usually a sign of a placebo effect or a sign that the product's doing something not supporting the body's natural physiology, and then the body adjusts to it. But if you get better results the longer you take it, it's usually a sign that you're working within the body's natural physiology. And also bone mineral density of the hip was measured, and the group taking Biosil was 2% better than the group not taking Biosil. So I'd like to preference this. These women were about 55 to about 76 years old. Had they done nothing, they would have lost about 2.5% of their bone mineral density. By taking calcium and vitamin D, they cut that loss in half. And then by taking Biosil, they had more bone in the hip at the end of the study than at the start, which is quite remarkable for a bone study. Generally, in a bone study, all the groups drop, and they report the less of a drop as a gain. It's a good thing, it's less of a drop, but it's different than a gain. But these were actually gains. The people had more bone collagen and more bone mineral density in their bone at the end of this study than at the start. So I always encourage people to think of bone as a two-phase system. You have the collagen giving it its flexibility, and the minerals giving it its shape and its rigidity. But bone is an organ, but it really responds like a muscle. And the bottom line is if you don't use it, you lose it. The body is a very efficient machine, and it doesn't like to take care of tissue it doesn't need. And if it doesn't think it needs a muscle, it tears it down. If it doesn't think it needs bone, it makes it smaller, so it's less, takes less energy to take care of it. And in May, there was a big bone conference in Boston, May's Bone Health Month, and all the bone studies usually come out in May, and that was in Boston. And there was a group of researchers that looked at the leisure activities of women in the U.S. In their 50s. And they found that 40% of U.S. women don't have a single leisure activity that involves exercise. And I said, whoa, that must be a pretty rigorous definition of exercise. I said, maybe I don't exercise. And when I looked at the list of exercise activities, it was a very liberal list. They had things like bird watching on the list, and they said that when you walked to look at the birds, it was still exercise. But 40% of the population was doing nothing. And at the same conference, there was a different group of researchers that did a different study where they gave women that had not been exercising surgical tubing bands and with handles on the end, like those stretch bands they sometimes use in yoga, and they had them do a squat and a curl and a military press with it. And they were supposed to work out between 12 and 20 minutes 3 times a week. And if they were too sore from using the stretch band, they were supposed to walk. And in 12 weeks, working out 3 times a week, very modest 12 to 20 minutes, the women reduced their risk of fracture by 15%. And they already had started building much stronger bones in just a short period of time. And to make a radical example, if we took up kickboxing or boxing or something, just in a matter of 2 or 3 weeks, slamming the fists into a bag will facilitate radical bone formation in the area where the intense pressure is put on it. And on the other end of the spectrum, when NASA shoots astronauts into space, the average astronaut loses about 1 to 4% of their bone mineral density during the space travel because of the lack of pressure on the bones. Probably the most brutal study I've ever seen in regard to exercise and bone was done by the Russian space program in the 1960s. They took East German Special Force soldiers. These were highly trained athletes working out every day in their 20s, and they tied them to a bed for 90 days to mimic space travel. And some of the guys lost more than 30% of their bone mineral density going from a highly trained athlete working out every day to doing nothing. And they called these guys volunteers. And I wonder, whenever I see an East German study, I wonder what they did to get the guys to volunteer. I think they had a machine gun, and you had a choice to volunteer to study or walk in front of the machine gun fire or something. They did some brutal studies on, especially guys in their own service. But we were very fortunate. There was a nice article, and it's still on the Mir website. It was published, I think, in March. It talked about ways to keep your healthy skeleton healthy and strong. It talks about the importance of exercise. And very interestingly, they talk about cultures that eat the most amount of calcium have the most amount of osteoporosis. But the cultures that eat the most amount of silicon have the lowest amount of osteoporosis. And I highly encourage, if you want to read more about it, go to themir.com and Google Biosil, and the article will come up. And also, there's a wonderful book called Love Your Bones. I think it was published in January this year by Dr. Mac Tux. She's a veterinarian, but she's now involved in human nutrition. And she did a lot of studies where she looked at osteoporosis rates, and she looked at the amount of silicon in the water, drinking water. And she found that the people that drank more orthosilicic acid in drinking water had better bones, and people that ate more calcium, high amounts of calcium, generally had more osteoporosis. So we were very fortunate. She gave us some publicity there. And then my idol, Dr. Gifford Jones, he's 93. He still practices medicine in Toronto. He was trained at Harvard. He has some wonderful articles on the Toronto Sun website, and he talks about 4 things that people often overlook for bones. He talks about Biosil, vitamin C. He talks about magnesium. And a lot of times people overlook magnesium. It's complicated to talk about because it's involved in over 300 biochemical processes in the body. And when someone says, hey, what's magnesium do? It's tough to know when to start. But regarding bones, magnesium is required to activate vitamin D. A lot of times people don't know the cocalciferol that your body makes when you're in the sun or that you take as a supplement isn't the active form. Your body has to convert it to 25 hydroxy vitamin D, which is the way it stores it in the body, and then it has to convert it again to 125 dihydroxy vitamin D before it's actually used in bone building. And this conversion requires magnesium and requires vitamin K2. And something like 55% of the US population is magnesium deficient. And some subgroups, such as people that drink more than 2 alcoholic drinks a day, people under stress, and people under 30, which probably are under stress and drink more than 2 drinks a day, 80% of those subgroups are magnesium deficient. And if your body uses magnesium to sober up or to denature alcohol, if I say it nicer, the body uses vitamin C or magnesium to make stress hormones. And if you're making stress hormones and denaturing alcohol, you're not activating vitamin D. And I hear over and over again people say, vitamin D supplements don't work for me. I used to take 400, then I took 800, then I bought the Mega Blaster 5000, now I buy it in a wine barrel, and I just can't get my vitamin D levels up. I get it tested every year and it doesn't go anywhere. They think they have a malabsorption problem. It's possible. Malabsorption is always a potential, but I think it's more likely they're magnesium deficient and they're not converting the supplement, the co-calciferol, into the 25 hydroxy vitamin D, which is what the doctor's looking for. And if they're not converting it, they're not going to find it on the test and the body's going to filter it out. So magnesium deficiency and vitamin D deficiency, I think, go hand in hand, and it's often overlooked. Magnesium also activates bone-specific alkaline phosphatase, which is a bone-building protein, the parathyroid hormone, which is kind of the air traffic controller for calcium in the body. And also, I don't know why, but bone that has a lot of magnesium in it has lots of little calcium phosphate crystals. But bone with not much magnesium in it has fewer crystals and they're bigger. The people could have the same bone mineral density, but the dispersion of the crystals is very different from one another. And bone made with lots of little crystals is much more flexible than made with fewer, bigger crystals. So in some way, the magnesium seems to have something to do about optimizing calcium phosphate crystal size in the bone matrix. So those are some of the reasons I think that magnesium's so important for bone health. He also talks about vitamin K2 for bone. He does it much more eloquently than I do. But vitamin K2, by definition, is a group of compounds that activate calcium binding proteins. And the one that gets all the publicity is called osteocalcin. And osteocalcin is sort of a paste that puts calcium into the bone matrix. It also is involved in weight management and insulin utilization. It's a very important protein. But I think even more important is a different protein called matrix GLA protein. And that's what keeps calcium out of soft tissues you don't want it, like veins and arteries. And maybe 2 days ago, there was another study that showed high-dose calcium supplementation can potentially lead to increase in cardiovascular disease because of calcification of arteries. Calcium's not the bad guy. You need calcium to buffer or balance the pH in the blood. You need calcium to flex muscles. You need calcium for make neurotransmitters. It's critical for life. But if you take massive doses of calcium and don't give the body the ingredients or the nutrients it needs to manage that calcium, it can end up places that you don't want it. And vitamin K2 is one of the critical, if you're going to take a high-dose calcium supplement, I think you need to take a vitamin K2 supplement along with it to make sure the calcium ends up where you want it in the bone and not where you want it in the veins and arteries. So sorry I got rambling there, but those are what he talks about, and I highly encourage you to read more about it. Also, the last study I had was on men with osteoarthritis of the knee. Osteoarthritis is a degenerative condition characterized by the breakdown of cartilage. You get the bone underneath becomes very brittle. It often, bone chips often form and break off into the synovial fluid. The body tries to make up for the lost cartilage by making bone spurs. They call them osteophytes. So you've got in osteoarthritis, you have a breakdown of cartilage. You have a narrowing of the joint space. You have a decrease in quality of the synovial fluid, and you have these bone spurs forming. And you get a pain, and you get lack of movement. A lack of flexibility. And in this study, men had moderate to moderately severe osteoarthritis of the knee. They took 2 BioSil capsules or 2 placebo capsules for 12 weeks. And they were given a WOMAC questionnaire. It's a gold standard for measuring how the knee health is impacting somebody's life. There's 5 questions for pain. BioSil reduced the pain 48%. It was 26% better than the placebo. There were 2 questions for stiffness, and BioSil reduced the stiffness 48%. It was 35% better than the placebo. And there were 17 questions about the difficulty doing daily tasks. These aren't things that guys are going to go to the bar and brag about to impress women. They're more like utilitarian things like putting on socks in the morning and going downstairs and getting into a car, going shopping, things of that nature. And BioSil reduced the difficulty doing these tasks by 41%. It was 25% better than the placebo. There were also 2 markers of cartilage health that were assessed. CTX2 measures the breakdown of collagen in the cartilage, and BioCell reduced the cartilage breakdown by 25%. And COMP is a non-collagen component of cartilage, and BioCell actually reversed regenerated the COMP in the knee. So for years, we've been getting BioCell. About 80% of the people that buy BioCell buy it for hair, skin, and nail applications. And for years, we've been getting testimonials and consumer feedback saying that the products help them with joints. Some say it works real well. We get a lot of testimonials about reducing clicking and reducing snapping in the joints and stuff. And how I think it works fast and how I think it prevents those, works to prevent cartilage degradation, and it works to prevent clicking, is through the synovial fluid. First, I'll say it could be the anti-inflammatory compound of choline. Choline's an anti-inflammatory, but I think it has more to do with improving the synovial fluid. The knee is a synovial joint, and the ligament forms the capsule. And on the inside of the ligament, there's a membrane. There's very dynamic living cells in the, on the membrane, synoviocytes and human synovial fibroblasts. They make the synovial fluid, and the synovial fluid helps lubricate the joint. It helps cushion the joint. And even more importantly, it's how the cartilage gets the nutrients it needs. The cartilage is living tissue. It needs nutrients to survive, and it makes waste product every day that need carried away. But unfortunately, it's avascular tissue. It has no blood vessels that go to it. It gets a little tiny bit of the nutrients it needs through the bone, but at least 95% of the nutrients it needs go through the synovial fluid. So the blood goes to the membrane. The membrane takes the nutrients out and puts them in the synovial fluid. And then when you move around, it mixes up the fluid, and that's how the nutrients get to the cartilage and how the waste products get taken away. And if the synovial fluid quality goes downhill, it can lose its viscosity like motor oil, and as it breaks down, it doesn't disseminate or disperse the nutrients as well, so the cartilage starts to starve, and it dies because it's not getting the nutrients it needs. Also, it becomes a very toxic environment as it makes waste products, and those waste products aren't taken away. So movement's very important to keep the joint healthy. And orthosilicic acid in BioCell can be deposited into the synovial fluid to increase its quality. And we were very fortunate. We recently got some good, last year we got some good publicity on CBS News. Drew Brees got hurt. He got slammed to the ground and separated his shoulder. They thought he would miss the season and need surgery, but they had him take anti-inflammatory compounds. They gave him BioCell and vitamin C, and they had him do some sort of electromagnetic therapy. And he was able to play all season. Meg Ferris, the CBS reporter, went down and interviewed Dr. James Andrews, the head of sports medicine at Tulane University, and the team trainer, and they talked about it. We really appreciated that. My father was quite pleased. Back when he was with the Redskins, he says he invented giving silicon and vitamin C for soft tissue injuries. They actually had a guy who broke a leg early in the season, and at the time it was a season-ending injury, and they gave vitamin C in a different silicone product that was available back then, and the leg healed quickly, and the guy played again. The Cowboys said they had faked the injury, and they had to go to the NFL office to show that he was, in fact, had a broken leg. So my father was very glad to hear this. And then the world's best surfer, Kelly Slater, hurt his shoulder, and he recovered quicker than expected, and he gave BioCell a call out on his social media pages, which more than 500,000 people follow. So we've appreciated that. A lot of men don't like to buy the regular BioCell packaging, so we have new packaging for men that just talks about men. It's in a big box, and it only talks about joint health. And I recently was in Clearwater, Florida. I did a talk at the Nature's Food Patch, which is right next to the Philadelphia Phillies training facility. And Ryan Howard, their first baseman, had been buying the Tiffany Blue Box. And he said, yeah, this one will look better in my blocker. So he bought this one. He takes it. He has an arthritic knee. So I wanted to get up on a soapbox and rant about something I get very, very mad about when I hear public health say. But bone is remodeled all throughout somebody's life. Despite what you may hear, that you have to build bone when you're young, all you can do when you get older is hold on to it, it's not accurate. In my opinion, it's a misguided statement trying to encourage young people to get interested in bone health. But your bone is remodeled all throughout your life. The process starts with the osteoclast tearing down the old damaged bone. Then there's a reversal phase. They call this a pit. And then the osteoblasts are the bone building cells, and they come along and build first osteoid, which is collagen structure, and then they make proteins that mineralize the bone. This occurs all throughout somebody's life. The rate will vary by bone and by person, but as a general rule, you have a completely new skeleton every 7 years. Some bones remodel faster, I think as much as once every 3 years. That figure is a little bit more controversial. It's heavily influenced by exercise and nutrition, and it's never too late to make a positive impact on this, this cycle. I also get asked a lot about biphosphonate drugs, things like Reclass and Fosamax. And they say, how's that different than like a magnesium or a Biosil or vitamin C? But vitamin C and Biosil work by stimulating the osteoblasts to build new bone. The biphosphonate drugs work by turning off the osteoclasts so they don't destroy old bone. So usually what happens is somebody's bone is dropping like this, bone mass is dropping like this, and the doctor prescribes them the biphosphonate, and the bone mass stops dropping. And they say, hey, I'm getting ahead of this, I'm winning the game. But unfortunately, this is the body's process to repair old damaged bone too. So every day that we live, we have little microfractures that occur, things like homocysteine and stress hormones and sugar damage the bone. And when the body, there's an osteocyte which manages the bone, and when it sees that in one sector there's a damaged bone, it sends the osteoclast down there to fix that damage, take it down, tear down the old damaged bone, and then it sends the osteoblast to build new bone. It's sort of like having a rotten board in the wall. You want to take the wall down, take out the rotten board, put a fresh board in, put newer wall material on top. And if you keep the osteoclast turned off for too long, the old damaged bone starts to build up in the body, and then when it breaks, it can break badly. And there's side effects from these biphosphonate drugs after 3 to 5 years use, where you can get osteonecrosis of the jaw. It's basically a dead jaw, and when people have dental procedures, they don't heal properly. And then these atypical femur fractures. Generally, when a hip breaks, it's way up at the head of the femur, but these are down more on the shaft. And there was a study published in the New England Journal of Medicine and, that they compared people that took biphosphonate drugs for 5 years, and then half took a placebo after that, and then others took continued to take the biphosphonate drug. And the biphosphonate drug actually didn't prevent fractures for more than 3 to 5 years. It actually increased the fractures after 5 years of use. And FDA is now saying not to take the drugs for more than 3 to 5 years, except in very special circumstances, such as cancer treatment or whatnot. So it used to be when you turned on the evening news, you would see Sally Field skipping through a cornfield talking about staying strong with Boniva. Boniva is still advertised on the evening news, but it's kind of a rough-looking guy in a $1,200 suit saying, do you have an atypical femur fracture? Do you have osteonecrosis of the jaw? Have you taken a biphosphonate? You should call the Law Office of Science at Kirk right away. You could be entitled to substantial financial compensation. So they're still advertised. They serve their place, but I just wanted to say they work very differently than the nutrients we're talking about today. And then the very last thing I wanted to mention, that Biosil is inherently a liquid. From a scientific viewpoint, it has a bitter taste. Often people use more colorful language. It's kind of fishy. And a guy recently told me it tasted like a dirty hippie's foot. I asked him, as a scientist, what his reference standard was and what was the threshold between a clean hippie's foot and a dirty hippie's foot. And without pausing, he said there was no such thing as a clean hippie's foot. I didn't want to know anything about his reference standard. She was crazy. So I left it alone. But if you mix it with juice, like a red or purple or a juice, that scores best on the taste panels we do. You can put it in coffee or Earl Grey tea or tea with a lot of tannins in it, like a red ribose tea or something. It disguises the taste quite well. I like to put it in a shot glass and just do one sip. Other people like to dilute it a lot, but I don't think dilution is the solution. I can taste it in large amounts. But you take 6 drops a day for bone health and 10 drops a day for all the benefits. And then we have technology to make capsules where we take a plant fiber and we make like a dough and we run it through a spaghetti extruder and we make these like spaghetti noodles out of the plant fiber. and we spray micro droplets of the liquid biosil onto the noodle, and then we run it around a little tumbler, and it breaks it into these funny shaped pellets, and we can put them in a vegetarian capsule. It's a liquid product in disguise. If you look at it under a microscope, it looks like dew on grass in the morning. It's a liquid biosil beaded up on the plant fiber. And you take 1 a day for bone and 2 a day for all of the benefits of biosil. And they work equally effective. There was a study at University of Antwerp that showed that. So thank you very much for allowing me to come by and talk about connective tissue and about biosil. It's a topic I love to talk about. And if you have any questions, I'll do my very best to answer them.